So, welcome back everyone to the show. This is Madhavan Bora's podcast, #4. Today, I'm genuinely excited because we have someone who doesn't just make films, she lives them. My guest is Maia Buljeta. Well, she's an American film director and CEO of Hypothesis Picture House Productions. She has worked with organizations like Jacob Burns Film Center, the San Francisco International Film Festival, Brooklyn Film Festival, UNICEF, the Refugee Dream Center, Brown University, ISD, and even major names like HBO, Netflix, New York Times, etc. But she's also known for crafting films that carry pieces of her own life, you know, different lives she has lived. And again, I think she also weaves those experiences into emotional, deeply human stories. And some of her notable works include His, Truth, Walking Dream, and her upcoming project, The Walmart Near Me. So Maya, thank you so much for being here. And we're really excited to have you here on this podcast, #4.
Thanks for the great introduction. Absolutely. I'm so happy to be here too. I love your podcast and I feel like it has so many interesting points to it. And it's just yeah, it's one of those kind of rare ones where you're not like kind of speaking through a filter, but you're actually being like authentic. And I really appreciate that about your podcast. So it's exciting.
Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, let's get started. So whenever I start in conversation, I am I start with the childhood and what the childhood like because I'm genuinely and curiously interested what sparked that light or that interest or that fire that made them do what they are doing, which again, which you are doing great work. So let's start with your childhood. Um, so what
Yeah.
kind of yeah, so what kind of child were you growing up? Were you like a quiet kid, curious, or one of those observant, or were you like rebellious in nature? Like what type of kid you were?
Well, I was how do you put it? I was like that very kind of creative child. I did a form of homeschooling called world schooling, where it's like you don't stay in the classroom for your schooling, but you go to different teachers and different places and learn through field trip. That allowed me, I guess, to be very, in certain ways, like imaginative in terms of like being able to spend more time on certain things, which was, I feel, is a really cool and innovative way to learn. But I was very creative, very silly. I had a very big sense of humor. I actually like to say that I was like a smaller version of who I am right now. I don't feel like I changed that much from when I was 3 years old. Um, but yeah, I was very funny, and strange. Um, I had a lot of inner world that I did with my sister. We made up like a lot of stuff and we just loved to learn and we love to create stuff. So,
Okay. So when you said this, that you never changed ever since you were 3 years old till now, and that makes sense. I believe we already are what we already are. We just when we're born, we already have what it takes to be someone that person we want to become. So I also agree. I feel the same way. I'm still the same person when I was 8 years old, and so I agree on that. So that's wonderful.
that's
So
awesome. Yeah, that's great that you feel that way too.
yeah, was there like a moment in your childhood when you realized you saw the world differently from the people around you, or just in general on others?
Well, as a child, I don't know. I guess I always felt like I was kind of like people would call me an old soul because I was always interested in I was kind of a little bit of a weirdo. I was interested
Huh.
in like deep philosophical concepts. So when I was like 3 or 4 years old, like I used to think deep thoughts like, what is the meaning of this? What is the meaning of life? What is why are the planets like that? That was always kind of my thing is like and why did they have that concept in their mind? So I do like these philosophical analyses of people. So I guess that was kind of part of my weird personality, but um I I yeah, I liked to build things out of cardboard and I played pretend all the time. So I would talk to myself and I was like, um yeah, I mean, I guess to answer your question, about what we not weird, what made me kind of different. in some way. I mean, I don't know if I was different, but I think I was allowed to be myself as much as I can be by my mom, because she was the one who, like, led my world schooling. She's an artist, she ran an art school out of our house. So I was allowed to really freely express myself and explore the things I was passionate about, so that's why when I was 11, like, I had enough time to try a lot of things to be like, when I was 11, I wanna be a filmmaker. Um, yeah, I feel like because I was allowed to experiment with a lot of different things.
So wait, how old were you when you started questioning your existence? Because I also, tend to question and personally, but how old were you personally when you started questioning like deep, profound thoughts? Would want to know that.
3.
3 years
Years
old.
old. That's when my memory like, that's the earliest my memory goes to, but even then, like, I remember that was, like, the way I would think about life.
Well, like 3 years old. Re-
Yeah.
Damn. How can even someone function like that? That's wow.
I don't know, I was just like I thought it was very interesting, I was like everything was interesting, and I was, like, weighing the concepts of things, I was, like, I don't know why I was like that, I guess, like I said, I was kind of weird because, um but again, like, I was given kind of a certain amount of freedom, I guess, to do that because my mom's an artist, and she was all about the concept, so that's probably why.
Hmm. Okay, that's fair. Wait, so I'm curious. Did storytelling play a role in your early years? I mean, was it like some book or comic or some kind of movie or drawing, uh, or creating little stories? Did that play a role in your childhood or just in your early years or even now?
You mean, like, creating as in myself creating it or, like, reading other people's?
Both. Like,
Yeah, so my sister and I made up so many stories. Like she would start with the pen and paper, and then also scissors and tape. Those were like our biggest toys, kind of. But because we could make whatever we wanted, so we were constantly about our imagination. So the thing was, is that, um, yeah, it played a huge role. We created all these different worlds by drawing comics, so lots and lots of comics and characters. And my sister kind of taught me how to, I guess, be that creative with, like, extreme creativity. My sister had extreme creativity, so that's why I fed off of that, and I'd be like, "Why can't I draw like my sister?" And, like, I used to really wanna be like her in those ways, so I kind of she started the games, and I'd follow along, and we'd kind of just create all of our, like we literally started having, like, theme songs for things, we created our own words, we created our own, like, complete ecosystem of stories and lifestyle to the point where, like, our life was our imagination. It was very fun and funny, and that's why our childhood was so great is because we took everything in our own lives and we created new words for them. We just constantly invented new things. So I'd say my sister was a huge part in creating the stories. And so it was a lot of drawing, a lot of we do videos and picture making. And then when I was 9 years old, I got my first official video camera. It was a Memorex flip camera, and that I just didn't go anywhere without it, so I was always recording videos with my Memorex flip camera. So I brought it with me and just documented, like, all the parts of my life and when I hung out with my friends, and then we'd make, like, narrative videos, and I loved it. So that was definitely a big part of, I guess, getting into filmmaking. And before that, I had these 2 friends I once went to the Bronx Zoo with, and on that trip, they had, like, video cameras that they showed me all the cassettes, small video cassettes, what they made with it, and I was like, "Wow, that's what you could do with film and video." So that was kind of like the early part, and then my grandparents always had Turner Classic Movies playing on the television. So all of that, I think, really inspired, me to go into that medium in certain ways.
okay. So you would say your sister had a really crucial role with whom you have, uh, turned out today. Like,
Yeah.
okay, okay. But so I'm curious, is she also working with you with the films to create, and or you guys are
Yeah,
she? Oh, okay.
she helps me, sometimes with different parts of it. So, like, she's been a member on my crew, but, like, she's helped me with, like, because she's a musician, she's a violinist, so she's actually helped me with my score for some of my movies and makes the music, so it's really fun to kind of collaborate, and then she writes her own novels. So yeah, that's the kinda it's a creative relationship, and, it's fun. Then my mom. also pitches in, and then I help my mom. It's just very nice. It's a creative family, and
It's just like all of them, all your family members are just artists, from what I'm hearing. That's
my
great.
grandmother yeah, my grandmother was also a painter actually, which was rare in her day and age because, she was born in 1920, but she always, she always made, like, her house was filled with her paintings, and we saved a lot of her paintings, so, my mom was influenced by my grandma. My dad is not in the picture, he was never supportive, so that was always a factor, I think that's part of what made me kind of a philosophical kid in certain ways is because I had to deal with the fact that my dad and his whole family rejected me, um, because I didn't believe in the same, religion, like one religion as them. I accepted a lot of different religions and beliefs. And because of that, he was very angry with me. And I think even as a kid, I had to kind of get over that and deal with that.
Okay. Um, were there any experiences from your childhood that you now recognize just show up subconsciously in your films or just the work that you do in general?
Yeah. So in terms of experiences, that's a great question. I think for me, the thing, and I told you this through Discord, but the thing that drives me to make movies and what drove me in the first place is um, to be able to kind of give others peace in a certain
Mm,
way.
mm,
And I think that's like really the thing that constantly gets reinforced. And that's why I started when I was 11. And, it's just, you see people that are struggling in a lot of different ways, and then you can see how the perspective of a movie and how it can give you that flavor of real life and what it's like, how it can change a person's life and many people's lives just by watching and consuming something. And so it's amazing for communication. Um, but in terms of my childhood and, including my teenage years, I held on to filmmaking. It was very dear to me, especially as a teenager, because after my grandparents passed away when I was 12, because they were like, besides my mom and sister, they were the rest of my family for the most part. So after they passed away, a lot of the relatives who would visit from their side of the family, they just stopped being interested in terms of being in touch with me and being interested in just it's basically they kind of cut
mm,
me out of almost all the weddings and family get-togethers and holidays, and they just again it had a lot to do with several of them with religion. And it was sad because they were on the other, one side of the family was Orthodox Jewish, and the other side of the family was, very Christian in certain ways, to the point where both sides kind of didn't, I guess, respect each other in certain ways. Like, and I'm not saying every single family member on my mom's side was like that. Like, there were a bunch of people who were great, especially in the older generations too. But a lot of them, like a huge percentage, almost all of them, just didn't want really very much to do with me because of that kind of acceptance and belief in a wider group of people. So as a teenager, when my grandparents passed, it was like the rest of my family went away. Like the rest of like my aunts and uncles and cousins, like a good amount of them. Though my uncle Mark was amazing, but a lot of people was they were like they're gone. And I was like, "What did I do?" And so I was such a lonely teenager because of that. I realized I almost had no family besides, my mom and sister and a few others, and it was, like, terrifying, so I was very lonely, and I missed my grandparents. So I guess what I did is I stuck to filmmaking, um, because it kind of gave me the freedom and I don't know, it became like my family in certain ways, making movies with others and with myself, it really helped me out. So I went to the film school, the Jacob Burns Film Center, and they were amazing. And I went there for 5 years of film classes between the ages of 13 and 17. And I did like 90 courses at a young age. And it was helpful because I got like a really early start and I was able to dig into my passion. And that just kind of became like the thing I held on to. And I realized, as I went through life, this is a medium that can help other people and I should be able to use it for that. So yeah.
okay. Wow. So I'm seeing that since you lost your grandparents, dad, and then your other family members also just started not talking to you. Dad kind of also shaped to whom you are today. So that's that was bad. That was painful at that time, but now it's obviously working just fine, and it'll be great, even better than in the future. I'm sure. So yeah, that's wonderful. So wait, if you could go back and talk to your younger version, like that's a 10-year-old version of yourself, what would you tell her about who she becomes?
Yeah, I think the first thing I would tell her is, I think I tell her that feelings are just a map, that they're not bad. And because the thing is that I thought because I was feeling sad or scared, like I didn't know what to do with those feelings sometimes. And I thought, other people would say, oh, something's wrong with you because you're afraid. Or, I didn't understand that it was all a lot just fear and that there was nothing wrong with it. So I think what I tell myself is that use your feelings as guidance because I didn't understand it at the time. But and that's something that took me a really long time up until my early 20s to understand that my emotions are actually my map. And what I like to think of it like is like a pirate map is that I get a feeling and it's something kind of like I like to think of my feelings as a bit of an alien language to decode, but they're coming from a very real place. So like I think about it and say, okay, I'm feeling this thing. What does it mean? Because the thing is a feeling can be it can be the same kind of thing, same feeling, but in different contexts can mean very different things. So I have to like kind of decode like what is this feeling trying to tell me? And even if it's an uncomfortable feeling, I listen to it and I say, what action do I have to take? And then it leads me in the direction I need to go in. So these days I actually use my feelings as my GPS and my challenging feelings go away so fast once I listen to them. They are just signposts. And it took me forever to understand that, especially with the internet saying all these other things about what feelings are and how this is bad and that's bad, but it's not that it's not bad, it's great because it's been kind of like my North Star, so, I think that's what I'd say to myself, my younger self, is that these feelings are great, they're leading you in a great direction, and just try to decode them at a lot of things that the internet says isn't true. So, yeah.
So you use your feelings to navigate yourself to better and great places.
Yeah, exactly. I like whenever I feel stuck or sad or scared or anything, I'm just literally like, hold up. Like there's a quote by Oprah Winfrey that's feel then take the wheel, which means like you feel your feeling and then you listen to it and you see what it's telling you. And like I like to look at it as guidance from the universe. And then I'm just like, wow, because you wouldn't believe how many difficult situations my inner guidance has gotten me out of because I take my feelings seriously and I don't disregard them. And I think most people, a lot of, no, I wouldn't say, I don't know about most, but a lot of people just try to say, you got to stuff your feelings down, you're, depressed, you're this, you're that. A lot of the time, these feelings, and yet people do get depressed, but a lot of the time, these feelings are so helpful because they're telling us something and we won't, sometimes we become deaf to them, metaphorically deaf, because of what society tells you they are or aren't.
Yeah, fuck that dogma. You don't believe in dogma.
Yeah. It's scary. Yeah, it's exactly. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh my God. That actually. Wait. No. Hold up. That's great because Steve Jobs. After you're doing something, when you listen to what other people say, you're um don't listen. Don't get caught. Don't get stuck in other people's dogma.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I forgot the exact context, but he said something like that about when you let other people define something for you in certain ways. That's kind of getting stuck in dogma, and I think that's just so important to remember.
Yeah, exactly. That was from the Stanford commencement speech of 2007, I believe. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly, it was good.
I've watched it multiple times, thousands of times, and I cry about it. Sometimes I personally cry over it, just get it emotional over it in a good way. So
Yes, same. No, I totally get it. Like, I literally did, like, this summer, I did, like, a breakdown in my notepad, and I was like, "What does this mean? What's that mean?" I took all these notes. It was really good.
yeah. Okay, I'm curious now. Since again you mentioned in starting that people used to call you old soul for your own age and when you were young. What were your what's your favorite music artist, or what type of music do you listen to, or you used to listen to, or now you listen to? Actually, now what you listen to actually? Yeah.
Yeah, so I like anything that has to do with, music. I'm so consistent, but I like philosophical music that has to do with things that are, like, life like, things in life that breaking it down, analyzing it, and hope and my favorite thing is when there's a difficult situation taken in a song and then they show you ways on how you could find hope in it. That's like my favorite format of music. There's a lot of songs about romance and stuff, and that's nice and that's fun, but
Mm.
that's not exactly my genre. So even though that's the majority of music, I think that's popular out there a lot of the time. But I really like the American authors are a huge inspiration to me.
Okay.
And I like BTS is advertised as a K-pop band that is like, teenage, they're kind of advertised as that, like, oh, we're like make teenager music but and I thought of them like that for a while, and I was like, "Okay," I was like, "Give me a break, they sound like when I heard Dynamite, I was like, "Oh my god, shut the radio." That was in 2021, but as I was like when I got into this thing during the pandemic where I decided I wanted to learn to break dance, I watched this YouTube video about breakdancing, and I had Dynamite, and I was like, "Hmm, let me check out the band some more." And it was so strange because besides their hit songs, every other song was about deep philosophical concepts, and I was like, "Wow!" So I was amazed, and, their songs were so, f amazingly transformative to me, to the point where I started just listening to them to figure out different parts of life for myself. The lyrics were just kinda changed my life in a lot of ways, and so I really enjoy their music. It's big part of who I am today and how I've been able to move forward through challenges, actually. Um, and other music, I like Shepherd, which is an Australian band. It's very positive, but also interesting, and yeah, I have several others that I'm into. I love One Republic. I think they're really cool. Imagine Dragons.
What do you think about what do you think about Bob Dylan?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of him too. What do you think about him?
I love my hashtag one right now. Beatles and Bob Dylan are the only two
Oh my
artists.
god.
Only. They give me so much hope. Their music is just so dynamic, so profound, so deep. Um, because I know you're
Such a
deep
really
as well.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
yeah.
so it gives me so much hope and just so much like about this whole universe that we're doing what we're doing and just so much positive vibes, so much learnings. It's like it's even again, as you said, decode them, you get so much value out of it. Life lessons
Yeah,
that
exactly.
you might not be able to get otherwise as well. So I think
Ex
deep people like us would definitely love Bob Dylan and Beatles as you do as well. So yeah. What's your favorite Bob Dylan song? I'm curious.
I really like, let's see, uh, corny, but a complete unknown I really like. No, the song isn't corny, but, me saying that is my favorite is probably corny, but that's the one that I really like, and I like the, Blue-Eyed Son, that one.
Okay.
Where have you been? That's a
Yeah,
really cool one.
yeah.
And, there's a few others that I am not remembering the names of, but I really like. No, he's great, and he's such a maverick, so that's really cool that you like him as well. Who do you think is your number 1 favorite, band or singer?
Uh, Beatles, in Beatles specifically, I love George Harrison. And then I love John Lennon. And then obviously Bob Dylan. And then if you transition from there, I also love the Rolling Stones. Um, I love Dean Martin. I love Frank Sinatra. And there's so much more, honestly. Jimi Hendrix. So all those, psychedelics singers, bands,
That's so
groups.
cool.
Yeah. Just love everything about them. Yeah. Just the greatest
So the
songs
one
out
that
there.
kind of
Yeah.
sang about peace a lot.
Yeah. And just like
Mhm.
greater truths about life that I don't think a lot of people might be able to understand in general. So, and I just absolutely love George Harrison just so much, so much. Everything.
Wow, what do you like about him in particular?
I mean, just the way he saw existence and just how like from how he has to have all these bad habits and how he transitioned to just a complete different person and how he saw universe and the reality and just questioning existence and just the songs that he made. You should listen to George Harrison songs. You would know what I'm talking about.
I should. I know this is definitely sounding very interesting and something I should totally check out.
Yeah. So honestly, I listen to them way too much, which I should not, obviously, because there's just so much addicting. um, but okay, yeah, it's amazing how your childhood moments unknowingly shape artists like you. Now let's move forward to from those early memories to what were some defining moments in your life eventually led you to into filmmaking. So, I saw on the internet that, you directed multiple films across different phases of your life, obviously each with its own emotional weight and meaning.
Mhm.
So now if you had to choose one of your any film that you directed that from your body of work that represents you the most, now which one would you talk about first and why? Because I saw you had quite a lot of films on the
Yeah.
IMDb and everywhere. So which one would you
Yeah.
choose? Yeah.
That's a great question. I guess the ones that would represent me as a person rather than because I think about what represents my filmic style versus me as a person. Um, Let me think. Hmm. You know, if it's I'll say if it's a short film, it would at this moment it would probably be the film uh um sometimes I call the film Change, but I have a few different titles for it. But it's the movie that is a short video song that I made about, war, and cruelty out there. I feel like as a short film that represents me the best because it's how I feel in a lot of ways about the way things are in the world right now in certain ways. But as a in the terms of officially like what represents me, I think my upcoming feature film His represents me the most because it's the longest. It has a lot of details that just kind of are different parts of me, that I feel like I can just relate to, and, it's a way to kind of express myself in a form that isn't even kind of human anymore because it's a movie, and it just feels like it allows me to be, like, a different form than just, like, confined to, like, who I am with, like, 2 hands, 2 legs, it feels like I don't know, it feels like an extension mentally of kind of who I am in a multidimensional way.
Okay. Um, so let's say when you begin a project, do you start with a visual, a character, or a theme? Or what's your thought process like when you begin a project?
So I look for, when starting a project, I look for if it's going to, how do you say? I like when projects don't like when they ask questions that aren't easily answered because I feel like that's where the learning comes from. So like questions that don't have like a straightforward answer. So movies, the way I see the movies are kind of like a test lab and they're like an experiment and you can experiment with pairing two things together that don't usually belong together. And then that's how you learn something new. So that's something that I look for in movies when I, start making them. Because I normally write and direct my own movies, but I also, I like to collaborate and work together with others. I look for, when I collaborate, I look for people who are open-minded in the regards of like, accepting other people, not having like, this is bad, this is good, I don't like this, I like that. Like that kind of like divisive language sometimes that sometimes can be used divisively. And I try to not like have those types of collaborations as much because I feel like it's so important. When you're making a project, like I said, to look at it like it's a test or a experiment. So I look for that. I like to look for themes, and when I make movies, my production company that I run is, it's Hypothesis Picture House. And the idea is, to create real world change through the movies that are made and then create from their products and movements and other things and make the audience into a collaborator, so make them into like an active participant instead of just an audience who watches. So when movies may include like calls to action or other things like that involve real world organizations, but it doesn't necessarily the movie itself doesn't necessarily have to be exactly about the movements that the movie can start. Say, for instance, like a movie might be just like a regular narrative movie, right? In terms of like, a character might have trouble, I don't know, having good self esteem or whatever, right? But there's so many problems in the world that come from not having good self esteem. So it might be just a regular narrative movie. And then from there, all these kind of like movements, products, other things that can create positive change can come from. So, like I have one thing that I'm going to work on in the future. It's a concept called Foodio, about the idea of creating an automated food growing system so more people don't have to run out of food. So, the idea is either creating food packages to start, to food growing. So, like, food gardening. Because there's so much land because I live in New York, there's so much land in New York that's untapped, that could be growing all this food that would feed so many people. And the idea of food waste and tackling that and kind of trying to convince and persuade, supermarkets from not throwing out all this food that could be helping people. So there's a lot that can be done out there, and there's a lot of, the solutions are evident, and it's just about creating the movement. So I feel movies can do that. Company is untraditional in the way that I'll look for ideas to connect between each other, to create not just movies but like real world change. I feel like that's something that a studio called Breakwater Studio does. They do a certain amount of like, actually they do a lot of like, create the movie and then make, raise money or do other things to create other types of change in the world. So I really admire that. But yeah, that's kind of some of the stuff that I look for in a project, when I start.
Okay. Uh, so I know that you code, but the audience doesn't know that you code. And that's an interesting fact about you that I personally found. Because first of all, I'll tell you something. Even the computer science grads all around the world, most of the people, they don't want to code for shit. They're lazy. So what made you, code? I know, I mean, that you wanted to create tools for yourself, obviously, but uh, yeah, what were you just genuinely interested in code, and were you kind of resist when you first started coding? Because again, you come from a completely different, like artistic, background, and creating movies and all that kind of stuff, and then transitioning from there to coding. Now that can be challenging for anyone, right? And especially if you're not one of those nerds. I mean, I love nerds, but if you weren't one of those people who got exposed to computers when they were young, and especially when you start off at a significantly slightly older age, and you were now 14, 15, or 16, one of those prime ages. So what was your experiences like? I would want to know that, and I'm sure even the audience would want to know that, like when it comes to coding. Like, do you still do you find it like boring, or you just don't want to do it sometimes? Or do you feel annoyed? Like, what goes
Well,
inside? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So excuse me, choking. So when I was a teenager, I was very interested in softwares. Like, I was always you could say computer nerd, like you said, but like with, video editing and filmmaking softwares and, technologies, cameras, I loved that stuff and I still do. I love it so much. So, all the, Blender, which I recently learned a good deal about this past year. But before that, it was just, Adobe Premiere and other, Photoshop, and I loved learning, those kinds of programs. That the idea for me, what really led me to learning coding, is the concept of imagination to reality. That's why I'm always learning new tools. Is as much as I can. Like if I have an idea, I want it to go from idea to reality as fast as possible, and being able to just be like, I know exactly what to do to make this real. And that's what attracted me to coding, because I started learning a little bit about it in 2023. I was with a AI filmmaker named Ori Apkon, and I was helping him with certain things, helping him with, some artistic parts of, his company that he was starting and stuff. And he taught me, during that time when I was visiting his house, he taught me about AI filmmaking. In 2023, there was like nothing out there about it. So it was before everything started happening with AI, but he knew that it was going to be the next big thing in certain ways. So he showed me something called stable diffusion, and you work with Python with that. And he taught me about some of the coding language with it. And then he showed me what can be done with filmmaking through coding and with Python and all that stuff. And I was shocked. I was like, this is exciting stuff. I was very excited. Before that, I had a book called Book of Doing, and it showed a little bit about how to create an HTML page. And I was interested in that in like 2021. But 2023 was really when I got like kind of exposed to it through Ori. And it was very inspiring to me. He was a great teacher. And then I was just like, this is great. Like I was very excited. So I knew I had to learn more. And then I realized that things like ChatGPT and Claude can actually help with, once you know some code, it can code stuff, it can help you code stuff. So I was like, I saw the freedom and the things, the potential that you can create things with those softwares. And I started like, I said, okay, what if I can create a video game with ChatGPT, a JavaScript video game, like, because I knew a little bit of the basics of coding. And I was like, and it let me like make my own video game, my own Mad Libs generator or whatever through HTML, and I was shocked. I was like, "This is extremely powerful, and this is just through ChatGPT or Claude." And it was generating code. And I was like, "What if I learned code and I used it with ChatGPT and Claude? What if I really was able to customize it and create my own stuff, etc." So that set me off on learning HTML. So I started with the app, and this was 2024 and early 25. It was a app called Mimo, and, it's like a free app. It's like Duolingo for coding, and you do a little bit every day. So I learned HTML, JavaScript, and some Python, which I wanna do more Python, but I started with that, and I was like, "Jesus, like, this is amazing." Like, I started learning, and I knew how to do, the different things, a lot of it, and so I just started bringing that. I said, "Okay, like, what do I wanna build?" And I realized, Jesus, like, I can build tools for my own filmmaking stuff, through Claude was like the most powerful, Claude Sonnet and stuff like that. And it was extremely powerful for coding more than ChatGPT still is, I believe. And so I realized, I started testing things out, and the first thing I made like an auto sort software that can, through API keys and stuff, it will sort out your images on Finder based on AI and sort them into folders. So if there's ice cream, a picture of ice cream, the AI will read it and sort it into ice cream. I created a software like that. I said I can build things that don't exist, and I was so excited because I knew that that would be such an advantage to me too. And so just started realizing I could build more and more and more. And I was like, Jesus, this is extremely powerful. And paired with AI and coding. So I started making my own filmmaking tools because I realized, I need that. I want other people to have it. And then I just, I just made different things, and I realized, yeah, it was super fun and it helped people and it can help me. And then yeah, from there, I'm excited. And then I was like, wow, I always wanted to build a robot. So now I want to learn C plus because it just would allow me to build my own robot. And I'm extremely excited to do that. So I find it all worthwhile. And I feel like it's totally going to help me meet my own dreams. Like if I know how to do these things, I'll always be able to direct people on how to make them for me in my own company. And if I know from the ground up, just like with filmmaking, I'll always be able to have a certain amount of control over what I make rather than not having it at all. So there's just so many benefits to being able to code. And then I created my own portfolio website to hold my filmmaking, like, I made my company website. I created like a lock, a password, and everything. And I was like, I was learning to code at the time. I was like, and then Claude was helping me with that, and it was helping me create my dream website for my work, and I was so happy. So it's just, I guess, it felt like a true freedom and living on my own conditions and not having to go by what somebody else built on the internet. And I realized that all these softwares that I use, the computer, on the phone, it was like somebody else built them, and I'm using somebody else's version of the internet, and I can actually create my own for myself that matches me. It was a big deal to me, and it still is. So, and I think a lot of people don't know that certain things can actually be very simple, and you can change them for yourself and the way you interact with your media and with your devices. So, and then there's Bash, which can change your computer, Bash coding, and that was so cool. You can just type things in and modify your computer and its system. And ChatGPT and Claude help so much with you not ruining your computer and knowing what buttons to press. So there's like a million reasons why I think everybody should know how to code, honestly, in different ways, so you can take your freedom back in certain ways.
First of all, I just love the way you just said everything. Well, first of all, I have a really important question for you. You mentioned somewhere along the way that you would also want to build your own robot. Now, first of all, now how some artistic person like you, who's making films, get to that conclusion? Like, what in your mind influences you? I mean, was like, okay, I want to build a robot. Like, why? I would want to know
Well,
that first.
sure, sure. So, it would make a lot of sense if, again, you looked at my childhood. I was obsessed with robots. So I had Robbie the robot. I had Casey the Kinderbot. Like I had every single robot toy you could imagine. I had a Robo Dog, and I was like, awesome. And I would like bring it around with me. I was like, my dream as a child was to have a robot, and it was very silly, but like I was obsessed. My robot threw discs at people and at my grandparents, and they were probably annoyed with me. But I loved it, and always did, and I was always very curious. And I feel like there's a lot of potential when it comes to building your own robot and doing things. And ChatGPT, you could be a beginner with it, and it'll just tell you. From one thing people I think don't talk about that ChatGPT and things like that can do is they can tell you how to make real world objects from scratch, like insane. Like you could tell it what you have, and it will just tell you like, I got ideas on how to make like a 3D printer and things like that. Like it tells you what to do exactly, even if you don't have a lot of experience. And that's exciting to me. So I guess for myself, like there's different reasons why I'd want to build, a robot. I think there's just, it could help with a lot of things and create advantages, like, in a good way. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I had another answer for that, then I forgot it. But it's always been something that was on my kind of bucket list, I guess you could say. Oh yeah, the thing that I was going to say is that um I somebody who's always been one of my biggest inspirations was Benjamin Franklin because
Mm.
he's an inventor and stuff. Like his invention, like I always wanted to be an inventor. That was part of me, and that still is just being an inventor. And as a child, I used to want to be an architect, a singer, and an astronaut. So I used to want to go to the moon, and I still do. I still do want to, but I'm claustrophobic, so I don't think I'll do that. But maybe I will if the technology changes. Anyway, so I consider myself a little bit of what, some may call a polymath, which is I'm not saying like nothing, I'm not saying like, oh, I like to do everything, but I'm saying I have a lot of interests. I'm a hobby hoarder. I have so many hobbies. Um it's just I love to do and try everything, I guess. I'm very curious. Um, and I love Leonardo da Vinci for that reason because I feel like I love how he just like found new ways to do old things and connected different ideas and created new ones. I love that freedom of thinking. So I guess that's why, creating a robot is just one of those things where it's like it's a cool thing to do. It's new and I can invent something that could help others and it's fun. And yeah.
So, okay, so this might be a hard question to answer because again, experiences, you never know what happens in life. But um, do you see yourself kind of transitioning into a technological kind of, I mean, you still are, I mean, you still are coding it and whatnot, but like, do you see yourself transitioning into a complete different, like from, making movies, directing movies to just, running a technology company in the coming years, or like, as you said, creating a robot or something? Because eventually,
Uh, yeah.
yeah, you
Go ahead.
because eventually, obviously, robots. I mean, I don't know if you saw that 1X robot. Uh, there's this company called 1X Robot. They're basically releasing their own robot in 2026. Now, I don't know how far. Yeah, so it'll be like a robot which can just do your normal day-to-day tasks. Like let's say if you have some kind of laundry, so they'll just pick your clothes and put it in a washing machine and just like put it on. If you let's say you want him to kind of say, okay, here's my cup, put it in the kitchen, and he'll do it for you. But the irony to it, but I think one of those flaws is like what's actually happening is someone in the behind the scenes is wearing a VR headset, and they're the ones who are controlling that. So now that's something that's again not good, obviously. I mean, we don't want people doing this. We want robots to actually do it themselves, but
Right.
they're giving like big promises, which I don't know if they'll be able to deliver or not. But you can order it now for $20,000, Uh-huh. Or you can just do some kind of thing, some monthly payments option. So, so yeah, I mean that's what they're saying. I don't know if it's gonna be happen or not, but so I mean, so what do you think? Do you see yourself running a technology company and just like leaving film industry for good and just moving to your different venture for I don't know, for
No. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm mainly film director. Like that's pretty much that's what I identify as. Like that's what my main thing is going to be. But I see all these other things as things that can kind of spring from it. And like, things that can emphasize it and be just like pieces of that kind of whole thing. So, filmmaker first and then everything else like can I feel sprout from it organically in a kind of an untraditional way but like so if there's a tech company which I'm sure that'll be like a branch of it. Right now I've been developing a clothing line, and
mm,
that is what, we build the website and stuff. Me and my family have a clothing line that will be coming out, which has to do with like meditation and creativity and getting in touch with your inner child. So I have a line that's in there, and I just feel like these are just different kinds of things that's going to come from the main for me, my film production company and ways people can interact with it on a deeper level, bring it into their everyday lives. Like I have a Martin Luther King glass that I designed that has like a quote from him on it. Things like that, just to kind of bring the messages from my movies into the 3D world. And the robot, I was thinking I just probably build it for myself, just for fun and like have like an assistant. I don't know. It's just is a really fun idea. But who knows? Like maybe I'll build something else in the future. But yeah, tech company, like, that would only be to serve the main idea of Hypothea's Picture House.
okay. Well, that's what Steve Wozniak would say. Do you know Steve Wozniak? Steve Jobs' partner in crime, who did those
Yeah.
two, yeah. He would say he just wanted to create a personal computer for himself. And then Steve Jobs was like, okay, you know what? You can sell this to the world and the world would need this and blah, blah, blah. So the way you said, I would want to create it for myself. That's how what Steve Wozniak would say, look, because he was a nerd, he was a great just artist, and he just was a builder, inventor from such a young age as well. He was creating so many type of projects, and eventually he did create Apple One, Apple Two, and all those different type of. So that's amazing. I would honestly, if you do create a robot, let me know. I would want to also see because I'm also interested in robots. Um,
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, totally. Yes. No, that sounds awesome. Yeah. I just feel like, it would just be like, it would just be fun. I don't know. Like, I like just making weird stuff. And as long as it's not too weird, like the good kind of weird, like um, just trying new stuff. And I think it would just be part of that for me. I don't know. Like, my whole thing is like, if I'm drawn to it, why not? As long as it's something that's ethical and fun and chill and,
what do you think about life? What do you think the meaning of life is?
I think the meaning of life is that um we can grow more. Like what I've come to for myself is the idea of being able to how do you put it? I think that the world is here because we're all kind of learning and becoming more aware in certain ways of the definition of love. And I think that every challenging situation is an opportunity to understand love more for what it is. And what I mean by that is I think love is a more complicated and complex topic than we think sometimes, is that there's so many ways to show love in different situations. And one situation, the very same thing that could be caring and nice in one situation can be really not good in another. So I think it's about learning all the different facets and sides and what it means and how to show that. And I think that, whenever a challenging situation comes up, especially like the more challenging it is, the more you can kind of be a contrast and show what love is in that situation, even if like there's a lot of negativity around. And I think that's what creates the most special stories. And that's what creates meaning. And that's, I think that's kind of the meaning of things, is building that and becoming more aware of who we really are as beings on this earth, and that we're creating kind of more and more love and awareness of that love. And I think that's what the meaning is.
Okay. What's your day in the life like? I'm sure it's really hectic. At what time do you wake up, honestly? I mean, that's my first.
I wake up yeah, it depends on the day. So like sometimes I would wake up at sometimes I'll wake up at 9.
Okay.
Sometimes I'll wake up at, my ideal, I like 5 o'clock AM. Like I really do like that. But sometimes it's not possible because I have like later commitments. So, maybe 8 o'clock, 7. That's often what it is. And in terms of day in the life, it really depends on the day, but I think my big thing every day is I dive into it problem solving. So if there's a problem or a challenge, I kind of quiet my mind. I meditate. First thing in the morning is I do an hour of meditation. So I just watch my thoughts, and that helps me kind of quiet everything else down. And sometimes I only get to do a half an hour, but I try to do my hour because I learned it from at a really cool ashram with a real guru who he's from India, and he's really he knew a lot about it. So it's about quieting the mind, and when I do that, I find a lot more joy, which is really helpful. And so I start the day with that, and then I usually dive into whatever the day needs. So I ask myself, what does this day need? And I feel like every day needs something a little bit different. And then I'm always an ever changing person. So I listen to what I need, and I always learn more about myself. So I think every new day is like an opportunity to learn more about who I am as a person and what my own needs are. And if I'm drawn to something, I explore it. If I'm not drawn to it, like I feel like when I'm drawn to something or magnetized towards it, there's something I either need to learn or do, and I need to do it. So a lot of the time I go with that. But I take care of different things. I build different things. I work on my films. I do my work. I do like camera operating work for different things, events. I have clients. I make educational materials sometimes, but I always make sure to put time aside for like as much as possible for learning, creating, and reading as much as possible. And I really try to stay off the internet, in terms of stay off the social media. I prefer doing it twice a week if possible, really looking at that kind of stuff. That's my preference right now. Um, and just letting myself be with my own thoughts, because I feel like before I make friends with the world for that day, I have to make friends with myself. So each
Mm.
day brings about a new version of who I am, and I need to kind of shake hands with that version of myself, get to know it, spend time with it, and then go out into the world and do whatever. So I try to really spend enough time with myself, because then I feel like I could connect ideas together instead of constantly flooding myself with new content from like, because there's some repetitive thoughts on certain algorithm internet stuff, and instead of repeating myself with certain repetitions or feedback loops kind of thing, negative feedback loops, I try to also just quiet things down and listen to myself. And I avoid a lot of drama that way in my life, and I stay calm in difficult situations. And yeah, it helps me. So it's always about building a little bit more each day, being patient, not sticking, because as the quote goes, you have to be flexible with how you get there, but rigid with the place that you want to go to. Like basically, you have to be clear as much as possible about your goal, sometimes, but like flexible about the methods you take to get to your goal. So that's, I try not to do any planning these days. Even though I know planning on pen and paper is a good thing, I try to avoid it as much as possible, sometimes, because just sometimes does not like, too many things change sometimes. And it's important sometimes, depending on the lifestyle, to go with the changes and improvise. Because I think that's a major key in a lot of ways from keeping life from going in a direction you don't want it to go in, is to improvise a lot. So.
By the way, for the people who don't know, Maya is known on deactivating her social media accounts often, which I admire and respect. So if you follow her on any of the social media platforms and if you just search her name, sometimes you might just find that she's not just there, like completely gone. That's that's something I do myself as well. So I admire that. But I'm curious, do you find yourself just, getting sucked into that loophole of social media and just like scrolling, maybe on TikTok or maybe on Instagram or just scrolling, or maybe on tweets? Do you always find that, or are you like a really strong person in that sense? Like, I'm not gonna do this, so you just don't do it, or you just don't let it affect you. But like, do you sometimes find yourself being in that position, or you just are just so much stronger now that you just, yeah, no one can, touch you in that sense. Like those algorithms just can't get to you anymore. What would you say
Well,
about
I'm glad you asked that question, because I actually came up with a framework on how to help myself around that. I worked really hard, especially earlier this year. I did a lot of research, I did some reading, and it came up with a system to stop myself from being addicted to scrolling in social media. And for the first time in my uh, 14 or 15 years of using social media, for the first time, I'm no longer addicted to it. And this is the first year where I'm just not addicted anymore. And what I did is I have a whole, I mean, I can't remember every single thing I do off the top of my head, but basically a few things that I do is I turn my screens to black and white. I take breaks. I try to have days where I don't even check my emails. And I just kind of get back to myself that way. Um, I use different apps and softwares to kind of distance myself from it, because the thing is there's so many things, like with something, if you want your own brain to be a creativity generator. A person wants their own creativity to come from within themselves. The thing is about something like Instagram, you're refreshing your feed and automatically that creative generator, like that random factor is coming from something outside of yourself. And for me, that took away a lot of my creativity. So I recognize that, and I try not to scroll too much. I try to be intentional. I set up certain Google Chrome plugins and certain apps on my phone that automate, recognize my timing. I made like my home screen very boring on my phone, so that is now, like, it's called minimalist phone. It's an app where you can actually set it to just words rather than images and logos of things. So it's made me very intentional of realizing, the whole thing about cheap versus real dopamine. Uh, the whole idea behind that is that, when you realize if something is something really giving you true happiness, or is it just fleeting enjoyment? And I think that was the thing that I really explored a lot about. And there's so much to that, but what I really believe is that a person has to create a ecosystem, in many different ways in order to unaddict themselves. It's not just one thing. There's multiple things that a person can do. And because I believe that when we get addicted to our phones, we're not really getting addicted to our phones. We're getting addicted to all of the different things that we're desperately in need of, in certain ways. That's what I believe. Because for myself, like, if I'm really depriving myself of, exercise or other things that I don't know what my needs are, right? But like I really need them as a human being. There's different things that would make me automatically feel good. But like I'm getting addicted to them through my phone because my brain is getting confused about what reality is versus, like my phone is colorful, it's mimicking reality. And so I get addicted to those things that I kind of am depriving myself of. Like, say for instance, I used to have a whole bunch of superficial relationships on Instagram. And in January, that's kind of what happened is I realized, hold up, like a lot of these people who I thought were my friends aren't actually there for me. And that's what drove me to delete my old Instagram account in a lot of ways, is because, those people, a lot of them were not there for me. And I was like, this isn't real. And I started on this venture of what is real and what isn't. And so I just kind of deleted it. And then it was so quiet on my email. Like, so many people did not reach out to me. And that's when I realized I don't have that many friends. Like, a lot of them aren't even my friends. And they're there out of convenience. And that's the danger sometimes with social media, is you can start investing in people that aren't real in certain ways, that wouldn't really be there for you in an emergency or in any other way. And I realized all that. And it's one of the best things I did is delete my old Instagram account. And yeah, so there's a lot of things that I could talk about with that, but that's just kind of a little bit of an overview.
I totally get you. I personally don't even follow anyone on Instagram because I know I can easily get just sucked into that, that reels and comparing myself to the people that I grew up with,
Like,
or just anything, honestly, compare myself to anyone. It's better to not just even open that app. I only open it when I want to upload like my, if I upload a video or just want to promote for example, if we're recording this podcast, we'll just upload those clips there and that's it. It's good for, making your reach go higher, engagement higher. But then besides that, it's just those whole reels and those fake people posting stuff that they think they're somebody, but in reality there's nothing, and just giving us false realities. It doesn't matter
Yes, exactly.
if one is
Manipulation, like the yeah, go
yeah.
ahead.
It doesn't matter if one is like strong in your mind. They can easily just get just blown away. If you think you can do something and then you're really confident about it and then you open Instagram, you're gone. There's no way you'll be able to do
I
that,
noticed the same thing. I literally noticed that. I don't know what that is. Like, I'm still trying to figure out exactly what that effect is, but I mean, I noticed the same thing. Like, my confidence gets impacted often if I'm scrolling for a long time. And I'm like, it's not that I'm jealous. It's not like, what is this? So I think there's something there that I don't even know. But I think that part of it is respect. Part of it is being respected because I used to be around a lot of people who didn't really respect me, in a lot of ways, and they sometimes always thought of me as a joke or joking around like a jester, a clown, and I started making some art about it. But the thing is that you've got to be around people who truly respect you, and if you're surrounded by a lot of people who don't respect you, you're gonna start taking that kind of often as a norm, maybe like a
Mm.
normality, and then then you won't even be able to recognize what's respect and what's disrespect. And I think that's a major problem that's being manufactured through social media. Is like sometimes I might lose sight, like hold on, like why am I feeling so terrible? Oh, maybe because a person's disrespecting me and I'm allowing it, but I'm not even aware of it anymore because so many people are doing it. And I think that's what can easily sometimes happen through social media. Sometimes you could have people staring at your stories that you don't even talk to, and they don't respond to you, and they ghost your text messages, but they're looking at your stories, and it's just, it can create some very unhealthy behavior that we take very lightly just because a lot of people are doing it. We have to take it lightly, and then when we take it lightly, we're kind of gaslighting ourselves, and then we get really sad. And I think that's part of what happens when we lose our confidence once we get on there sometimes, is the idea that disrespect becomes sometimes normalized, and I think that's like kind of a big part of it.
Definitely, I agree. I wanted to talk about one of your films. It's called Waking Dream. So I saw that that's you, right, in that movie. That
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So you're kind of walking backwards, right, at first, and then instantly you're near that river, and then your reflection of that face, and then it disappears, and then the Imagines by John Lennon song is playing in the background, and then your face with all those multiple colors is showing, and then you're acting kind of wake up, if I'm right, if I'm not wrong, and then you have
Mhm.
a different colored stripes on your face, and you just walk out. So what does that mean? I'm curious. I'm not getting what it meant, but like I want to know what that meant. Waking dreams. That sounds even more. So what that meant for you? Why you create that?
Yeah.
So, the movie is about there is a character who's kind of walking backwards, who represents like a person who's kind of, I guess, going backward in their mentality. So maybe there's a little bit of ignorance or, just unawareness, I guess you can say, and they're kind of just feel like they're maybe going backwards in life. Um, and they're just, their face isn't shown, so they're very separate from, I guess, separate from themselves, but then they catch a glance of themselves in the river. They catch a glance of their reflection, and so it brings them kind of into a waking dream state, or like they're awake, but they're kind of dreaming at the same time. And it's kind of also represents the idea of a dream for humanity. So the thing is when they go into that state, they kind of see things very clearly. So they see a face, which is their own face, and they see different colors on it. And so I use stop motion animation to, animate the paint on my face. And I did it in a dark room. And so what happened is the person starts seeing themselves in different colors, and it represented like the different experiences that people can have, and in the world, and all the different feelings, and different skin colors and all kinds of things, different concepts, different feelings and states of mind. So
So
just different experiences. Yeah.
What were those colors specifically meant? Was it self-realization? Was it um, that they could be somebody in this world? What was it?
Yeah. It was self-realization, but also at the same time recognizing the world for what it was more, I guess you could say. So there was also the idea, like, when there was, like, red lines flowing down face, it represented, like, the blood from war and things like that. So it was kind of a recognition of the universality of kind of humanity and stuff. And that's why the song, Imagine was playing, because it's like, imagine that, imagine there weren't these all these things kind of holding us back, and I was imagine if we can live kind of in peace. So that's the concept. And then at the end, like, the colors represented, like, okay, maybe all of these experiences, maybe they can be accepted by each of us as kind of what makes the whole of the earth, and that's kind of like being left with all those colors on the face. Just kind of being left with the multitude of the colorful experiences of the world. And, what I did for the interview, for the people who sang, I interviewed, random people kind of on the street or around, like, the place I was at. And by interviewing, different people to sing different lines of John Lennon's song, it kind of, again, gave that idea of, like, people from different life experiences can come together and, even if they don't know each other, you know? So that was kind of the process.
So for the people who want to watch your films and want to know more about you, where can they watch your films at?
They could watch it on, Hypotheus Picture House, so it's www.hypotheuspicturehouse.com/Hypotheus Streaming, and that's where all my films are. So it's a streaming platform that I got through coding, that I made through coding, and, that's where my films are listed, that can be watched.
And is it a free based?
Yes, it's free.
Okay,
No
okay,
sign up required.
okay. Obviously, I'll link all of those in the description. Um, okay, and that was great. Now, let's talk about what advice would you want to give to, let's say, a 20-year-old aspiring to be a filmmaker who has this passion but doesn't know where to start?
Um, I would, in terms of advice, I would say start with, um, getting oneself off of constantly looking at media and start working on trying to take a step away from it. So I feel like as a filmmaker, that is, to me, one of the best steps a person can make is taking a step back from constantly scrolling on the phone and learning ways to unaddict yourself. So that's one thing. And another thing is to start by looking at your feelings as important, and that just because you don't understand them right now doesn't mean that that they're meaningless, that they each and every one of them have very significant meaning, and that to look at the way you're feeling at this moment and use it to make movies. So start with the feeling and then go into the story, the writing, etc. But keep that feeling that's been there in your heart for a long time, keep that in you, and go let that lead your art. So start with the feeling and let it be abstract and let everything else kind of support it, if that makes sense.
Besides
And
your
also,
film, mhm,
oh,
yep, go
sorry,
ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
can I add one more thing? Sorry about that. Um, for to use your I know they all say use your smartphone or whatever, but like there's a lot of free editing softwares and free resources on the internet, and a phone can be a great free resource. There's an app called Focus where it allows you to look like your phone is kind of like more of a high-end shallow depth of field camera for video, and it's just, using what you have and experimenting and playing with it, and it does not take a budget to make a movie. It just takes a little bit of time, and there's people who would be willing to volunteer. Just make sure you always feed your people on your set and make sure they have food. But, have fun with it and don't, wait to have the resources because you already have the resources. Yeah. So, sorry, what
Everything
was
is
the question?
everything is out there. It's just you gotta go ahead and just do it. Just willingness to act. That's it.
Well, you
People are
have to
just
find. Right, a person has to find ways, and I think this is the number one thing that I should have said to begin with, is to find ways to quiet the judgment of others. I think that's the biggest problem a lot of the time is people have the vision, they have the drive, and then they're surrounded by people who sometimes may look at them like they're acting silly or that they don't believe in them, or like I've had people literally say stuff to me like, you're gonna disappoint people with your work. Like, there's just a lot of easy people who mean well, but then sometimes there's this thing called the crabs in a bucket effect sometimes where people don't want to like, in a very subliminal way, even if they're not aware of it, they don't want to see somebody kind of escape the bucket that they're in. They kind of try to pull them down. And so you have to find a way to block out people who don't believe in you, mentally. I'm not saying block them all out in your life, but like find ways to really try to turn off that criticism, because there's going to be a lot of people sometimes maybe who won't cheer for you or congratulate you. Like there were times I had friends, I published my own philosophy book. I wrote a philosophy book and put it on Amazon and stuff. I was very proud and I posted it and like my friends just looked at the story. Nobody said anything. A lot of them, not nobody, but a lot of them, I was like, people aren't supporting me. Like people aren't excited. They're only excited when like I get a prize at a film festival or other things like these other things, like if it's not good enough for them, like people aren't cheering me along the way, and people are actually telling me that they don't believe in me. And I think you have to find ways to get within and spend more time with yourself and really keep those other voices to a minimum and stay away from them when you can, you know?
I've seen this trend and I've seen this. I think this is a common experience is that people like us, and when I say people like us, I mean when people are trying to create and people are trying to produce or just something do differently, right? It can be even as simple as putting yourself out there, like, having a YouTube channel or just, posting on Instagram reels. The people that know you as a Maya or just people that know me as Madhavan, the friends that we have, they will not support you. They will never support you. They will never, repost. They will never, be excited or be genuinely curious about it. And so, and I think, and that's with everyone who does this kind of work. I mean, not work, but just this kind of activities, right? So it's always like, for example, I'm sitting in here in India, we met over the internet and now we're doing a podcast. So it will be always the people whom you never see it coming or just you just never see it coming. So it will always be like-minded people. It was always be the people who understand you. And I think most of the time it's the people you don't know. And I think that's the beauty of it as well. You tend to meet people that you never thought you would and that existed from a different country, from a different just culture and everything. And that's just how it is. And eventually you form a, a, a big chunk of people, obviously, with time. So it's always that. So I believe it's just, I think it's great. I like it, honestly. I recently, so I posted a YouTube video recently, and I posted a short dedicated to that video on my Instagram. So there was this guy who reached out to me. I'll just put a screenshot here, and he basically said he like wrote a big ass essay, and it was like how he was able to relate to what I said, and I could see it because the detail that he was talking about, I mentioned that in my videos, and only me could understand that, and then the fact that he was able to understand that even that was a big thing. I was really happy. There's always the people you never expect, and they'll just come to you and find you. So yeah, you got have to cut
Literally.
that noise. You have to cut that noise. Doesn't care if don't matter if people don't respond or respond. It doesn't matter.
You
Eventually,
have to literally go like this. Just put your hands in your ears.
yeah. Because I personally used to get affected by this a lot, so much as well, just like you. But eventually, I understood. Life is too short, and you just have to just do what you are supposed to do and just I think it'll just come and make sense. Dots will connect, and then you'll thank yourself that you did. So
Exactly. And the other thing that I want to add real quick to that is that one thing that I think has kept me back from, following my dreams for a long time, or one thing that kind of like slowed me down is the belief that, okay, like my guesses when because, as a creator or a person that's, making art or anything, like business, um, a person can reach out and you make guesses to see, when you do cold emails and other things to try to like, build your business and your company and whatever, and your art. You might do a bunch of cold emails and stuff like that. And the thing is, there's always the random factor. There's a random factor inside of it. So you might be targeting people the right way. You might know, hey, yeah, I've done enough research on this person, and there's someone I can trust. Like, yeah, you can get that done. But the problem is, there's always a random factor, which is what if they have an assistant who doesn't ever show them your email, right? There's like literally a random factor when it comes to outreach through cold emails and other things. So what you have to do, there's two things that I believe that are my mistakes that I haven't done enough of, and that I'm starting to do more now, is you have to put out volume. Volume. I truly believe this now, is that person has to it's not gonna take 500 or 200 or 50 cold emails sometimes. Sometimes maybe it's gonna take 500. And I'm not even joking around. I'm talking about volume, like, not going too deep, too fast, because, like, if you say, "Oh, I wrote the perfectly crafted email for this person," and yeah, it may have been if the person actually read the email, it might have been the perfect email, but what if it's just their assistant? So that's one thing that, keep in mind, is that volume is really important. The other thing is, cold calling is really important. But the thing is that, when you reach out to somebody, if there's like somebody that would be amazing to help you build your company and stuff like that, or build your art or whatever, and that they can do something helpful, um, following up, if it's important enough to you. I read something not too long ago saying that the seventh follow-up email or follow-up contact is the one that often gets you the client or other things. I was like, what the hell? I've only been doing it twice and I've been afraid of being like not polite enough. And I'm like, wait a minute, like 7 times, that makes perfect sense. Like if you follow up and maybe every 3 or 4 days in a week, I don't think it's too aggressive. It's not. It's the only way to do it, especially if people are ghosting you. Like, what? And every time with another follow-up email, you attach something saying, "Hey, I just wanted to like a new piece of information. I just wanted you to check out this piece of art. Hey, I found this. I thought that would might be interesting to you." And then do it like 7 times over the space of what, 3 weeks, 2 weeks. And the thing is, it's like that's another way when you really want to chase something and you really want it, just keep following up. Including with the cold calls. And yeah, they may not like it. Yeah, you might get some attitude, but you're going to get a result. They're not going to ignore you forever. So that's something that I feel like I wish I just kind of understood sooner. And one more.
So, I mean, besides your family, when you mentioned, besides your family, who's your favorite like this art film director or just this producer? My personal favorites are Martin Scorsese and then also Wes Anderson. I love Wes Anderson movies just so much. I just love Wes Anderson. So first of all, what do you think about
Yeah,
those two people? Starting
I'm
with Wes
definitely
Anderson.
big fans of both. Sorry, what?
Starting with Wes Anderson. What do you think about him?
Yeah. I'm a big fan of Wes Anderson. I think he's great, and I actually based a lot of, I love the way he takes the time to put meaning into every prop and scene, and just crafting like the locations together and the visuals. Like it's so meaningful, I feel. So I tried to copy that technique when it came to my movie, my feature film, is trying to put meaning into each prop, and then, I love that work process he has. And then Scorsese is extremely inspiring. And again, he also says, use whatever you have, use your smartphone. Like he believes in people. He's not like, "Oh, you have to climb the ranks, you're too, you have to first start from below." Like, he's not in that kind of mind chatter nonsense. He's has great philosophies around that stuff. But I think one of my very favorites is I really like Alfred Hitchcock, but I really, really like Steven Spielberg consistently. He's just really fun and really interesting. And I don't know, I just feel like consistently I'm not finding movies of his that I'm not enjoying?
What's your all-time favorite movie? The best movie that you would recommend and is your personal favorite and you would watch it over and over and never get bored from it?
Hmm. I mean, I like a lot of movies.
Anyone, honestly. Which one we would
One
choose?
that I think is really well made. I don't know if I could watch it over and over again. I mean, I always love The Wizard of Oz. That's like my comfort movie, one of my comfort movies. But one that I feel like, I don't know, like, I mean, there's something I really like about Ready Player One too, but as well. But the movie Room, to me, I don't know, like that one really kind of, Room and 12 Years a Slave are two movies that I feel are so impactful, I feel. Very like they really reminded me of certain things that are very important in life. Um
Okay, how about
and then
this?
for Yeah, go ahead.
what movie from Wes Anderson do you like?
I mean, I like a lot of his, but I'd say my favorite of his, let's see. Probably my favorite is Moonrise Kingdom by him.
Moonrise. Okay. What about Darjeeling Limited?
I haven't seen that.
You should watch it. That's my favorite of all time. I love it. You should watch that. And what about Martin Super? What about Martin? Which movie do you like from Martin Scorsese?
Um, let's see. I like a lot of his movies. I really liked. Didn't he do? Correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't he direct The Wolf of Wall Street?
Yeah, he did. I think.
I
Yeah,
thought that was fantastic. I mean, I like a lot of his movies, but that was one of them that I thought was very uncomfortable, but in a really interesting way. So I thought that was definitely something
I didn't
that
expect you, someone like you would like. I mean, I love the movie, but I did not expect you would like Wolf of Wall Street. Coming from a so
dark.
artistic background, and okay. So you probably like Goodfellas as well, then I guess.
I haven't
Good.
seen Goodfellas. I really have
No
to catch up
way.
on like those kinds of classics. Yeah, I have
No
to
way.
watch it.
You have it still. Okay, okay. Well, let's see. So, what's next for you? Where do you see yourself in the next, I want to say 10 years, but that's a lot of time. And I would say 3 or 5 years, 3 to 5 years. Where do you see yourself?
I see myself in the next 3 to 5 years, I see myself having, my films in film festivals, having, directing a feature film, or a couple of feature films, with several studios, having a in-person studio for my production company, Hypothesis Picture House, so having an office, in New York City. Um, having, a home that's very, kind of to my liking, custom built. Um, having interesting studios to work out of, very customized, with lots of technology, um, and just having a lot of, an abundance, I guess, of, volunteering, spending time volunteering and meeting with different people and getting new ideas together. I loved my time at Brown University, and I see myself maybe going back to do more schooling because um, it was just very cool, and they have a great business program. So I see myself maybe doing something with that. But definitely doing collaborations with people from there. And I see myself continuing because I also do I'm on the e-board of Brown's Design X Health, which is creating innovations in the healthcare industry through a more compassionate and technology centered approach, to kind of humanify humanify the healthcare industry and make it less cold. So that's a project that I've been working on for the past 3 years, and I continue to want to have a part in. But yeah, there's a lot of different parts, I guess, of my life that I feel passionate about. And well, the way I see it's like a puzzle, like when I see something that inspires me or whatever, it's kind of like I put it away for later because I know somehow it's going to connect everything together. So I see it like that. And yeah, I'm just excited to be able to like full time just delve into like directing my movies and, have these other parts working without me. And yeah.
Okay. Um, okay. Well, do you, okay, what do you think about money? What does money mean to you? Would you say you're like a materialistic person, or you're like simplified person? Because I myself, if I talk about myself, I love a lot of stuff. Like I love materialistic stuff, but then obviously I'm not attached to them, but I just love just so much stuff. So what do you think you are? Would you would you say you're rather a simplistic person, or you just a materialistic person in that sense?
I think I'm both a minimalist and a maximalist. I think I'm both. I swing between the both for different situations. So I love objects. I love collecting things. I love miniatures. I just like to collect things, rocks, but at the same time, I love space, open space, and silence. So I think I'm both. But in terms of money, the way I view money is I think it's like kind of an energy that you can put towards the things you believe in. So I don't believe in the idea of hoarding money. I don't believe in the idea of, using it and just keeping it for like a Rolls Royce and things like that and not trying to make other positive things happen. Like there's nothing wrong with a nice car, obviously, but if n- you know I believe in the idea that if it's so important, if you have the platform, talk about the issues in the world, don't just talk about glamour and red carpets. Like it's really important to try to speak about, including everyone in on the conversation, people who receive food stamps and people who have like all these different from all these different walks of life. It's like if we treat them like they don't exist, and you have a lot of money, I don't know, it just feels very weird to me. And I think it's just important that there's more of an inclusivity and that we don't just support the movements that relate to our personal lives. Like some people say, oh, because I had this in my life, I'm just going to support that or talk about it, which is cool. But I think it's also important to try to include others and be that type of person. So I think money can be used as an energy, like I said, or a good kind of weapon, not a bad weapon, like something that can really tackle things. If you just aim it towards certain things, it's powerful in that way. It can make things change very fast when it comes to challenges in the world, or it could really make change happen very quickly. So I think in a way, money is a way to speed up time, speed up the effects of time, and just consolidate and give you more time. So it's like, if you have like, $1,000 to pay a group of people for a day, think of all the work that you can get done rather than just having you do it day after day after day. Like it's just a way to make things happen very fast, in a good way. So I think of money like that, and I think that money is received when a person is able to make others happy and give others joy. I think that's really the best way where money is able to come to a person.
What what type of mark do you want to have, or what do you want Maya as a person to be known for in this life? Just to
I want to
maybe,
be.
Mhm.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that's
I want to be known for, I think, the person who took a lot of her challenges that she went through in life, was able to smile and find joy and gratitude for it, even when it looked like there was no hope left for her. To be able to actually take a step back and be like, this is still a good life. It's still a beautiful world, no matter what cruelty that I've faced or anything like that. Like, I want to be known for that and to be able to say that even in the face of hatred, which is something that I've been hated for reasons that are kind of nonsensical, really.
uh
And I think even in the face of hatred, I want to be known for the person that chose to remain, kind or try to remain kind. You know what I mean? Like somebody who chose to not give in to other people's pressures of hatred and instead chose the path of love and chose to um, kind of break barriers and step into places that people saw as a troublemaker. Oh, you don't break the status quo, don't talk about the problems in the world, you're making trouble. You got to follow, the bureaucracies. Somebody who kind of broke through bureaucracy and the red tape in the world and was able to show that things weren't quite as complicated as people said they were, and that to show that real peace is possible, and it doesn't have to be so hard, and that problems and challenges can be taken and kind of through alchemy taken to create a beautiful life and a beautiful world, if handled the right way. So that's the way I think I want to be remembered.
yeah, nice. Well, Maya, thank you for this conversation. I believe you are a really strong person, and your story is inspiring, and the way you have carried yourself and handled yourself, I genuinely believe you have something meaningful going on there. And if you, again, as you have, keep it for even for a long period of time, even for a little longer, I think you'll do great. You'll be one of those greatest, and you already are. but you'll be even. Yeah, I think I genuinely believe that. I'm not just saying it because you know me. I mean, I just say what is real. I just don't say it because it's just. But yeah, I think you're doing a tremendous and great work, and your vision, your storytelling are inspiring. And I'm sure, listening again, I'm gonna watch this again, the whole thing again, and I'll probably have a lot of questions. So again, I'll just bother you with those questions as well. It's like it'll be so long of like bunch of clips and here and there. So yeah. So I'm really excited to see what you have done, and I'm pretty sure audience would also be excited to hear about this and check out your stuff. But yeah, anything you would want to say to the audience or just to the world or anything in general?
Yeah, well, I think that your work is very special as well, and I know that you're gonna really do amazing things and that
Yeah,
your show is fantastic. So it's very
yeah,
special on your end. So I feel the same exact way actually about what you're doing, that what you said about me. So I'm very
yeah.
excited for you as well, and I appreciate this very much. And this was really a great conversation to have. I feel like it gave me insight on myself a lot, which I really appreciate, and that's invaluable.
Mm.
To be able to kind of have that. And I guess any last words to people watching is it's corny, but like don't listen to what others say. It's not possible because the problem is that people create this like the idea of glass ceilings. People create blockage to things that aren't even there. Like not too long ago, I went into a room full of people that were like more high level, and and what I mean by high level is like in terms of their position. Like I'm not saying like in terms of their position in a company, it was more high level and it was very accessible. They were very accepting, and I was like, this is the space that everyone says is hard to get into. Like, it's like sometimes the spaces that are not as quite advanced in terms of profession, like sometimes a lot of the time from my experience, this is very controversial probably to people, but from my experience, the spaces that are not as professional are actually a whole lot harder to get into. A whole lot harder when you're in a truly professional space and you're truly a professional and you really aim for the most professional spaces, it's actually a lot easier to get there because people will make up reasons that don't exist as to why something's bad or something's not going to work for you. It's going to be complete nonsense. And they're going to say, oh, you're not quite this level yet. You can't join us, even though it's like the most measly. And, the funny part is, I've had somebody say, there's a person that had like, just started filmmaking, right? And it was totally cool, but she just started filmmaking and I had like at that time like 14 years of experience. And she was like to me, "You could be my intern." She was like, "You could be my intern and I won't pay you and we're interested in like mentoring you." And I was like, "Oh, hold on, girl." I was like, "Wait, what are you?" Like it was just very strange because it was like she said, "We're looking to give you the opportunity." And it was like, super tiny company, super they didn't, it was just very strange. So it was like, don't get fooled or not fooled, but don't get misled by small spaces acting like they're very exclusive because that is like one of the biggest illusions of the film industry and other things. So don't be afraid to go to the very top, pitch your ideas, and don't be afraid to appear rude or I mean, don't be rude, but like don't be afraid to appear how do you say aggressive because that's everybody who stays at a certain level of professionality, who stays less professional, they're afraid to appear aggressive, and it's not aggressive. It's not to pitch your ideas and be persistent in your follow-ups. So yeah.
That wraps it up. Thank you so much for doing this.